Okay, one of the cool things about ASP.NET is the advent of cookieless sessions. And with this, we don't care if the user has turned off cookies on their side. We're going to store these things server side, but we're going to track the session without the use of cookies. Now, here's how we do this. When the user requests a web page, we look at the URL coming in, create a session ID, and embed that in that URL. And from that point on, everything we send back to that user, our response back to that user, has that embedded. Let me draw this out. Here's our server. Here's our client. They send us a request. Before we ever process the request, we take this session ID, generate it, and tack it onto the URL that they requested. And then when we send the response back, we tack that onto the response. And then when they come back with another request, there's that cookieless session ID. And we just keep tracking them back and forth. And so we can keep up with these people as they move through our web page and our application. Now, that session ID basically locks onto that person and gets passed back and forth, and we're going to track it. Now, what's really cool about this is you would think that to be able to do something like that, most of the time, something that cleans things up that easily is tough to configure, and I want you to see this. To enable a cookieless session, we go to the web config file. Here's that guy again. Again, we're going to talk about him later in a lot more depth in a separate video. But we're going to go into the configuration file, and we're going to add this right here. Session state, cookieless equals true. And when we do that, cookieless sessions are enabled. Now, it's very simple to set up, and there's only one real gotcha with cookieless sessions. And that is, since we're appending this session ID to the URL, just the way it's happening, it requires that we have to use relative URL links between our pages. And so, if you're not sure what a relative URL link is, it's basically saying use this file in a certain path, and we don't really give it an exact starting path. And this lets us move things around on our web server and do some housekeeping without a major hassle. But you have to use relatives. If you don't use relatives, you'll actually get an error back when you try to process the web page. So again, cookieless sessions, one of the cool technologies. Short video, because thanks to Microsoft, there's just not a whole lot to talk about with these things. Turn them on, use them, you'll like them. Now, these things will work with any browser basically that's using URLs, and it's going to be any browser that's out there. These aren't specific to IE. They're not going to give you a hassle with Netscape or anybody else's browser, because it's kind of happening in the background. So take a look at cookieless sessions, give them a try. I think you're going to like them.